Welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I will tell you a touching story. Love comes late. Please listen to the whole story and feel it. Give a comment from you. I hid my identity as a wealthy heiress from the capital city Umbergard and married Robert Bain. The day before our wedding, I unfortunately got into a car accident. When I woke up, I was blind. In the darkness, I overheard Robert talking to his assistant. Mr. Bain, everything has been taken care of. The driver responsible for the accident and the doctors, none of them will say a word. But your fiancée loves painting more than anything. After donating her corneas, she'd never be able to see again. What if she can't accept it when she wakes up? She's strong. She's not like Lex. Lex wouldn't survive without her sight. And Adeline has me. I'll take care of her in this life and the next. I love her, but I can't lose Lex. Robert paused for a moment before speaking with low and hoarse voice. Oh, and have the doctor remove Adeline's uterus while they're at it. If Lex finds out I had a child with her, she'll lose her mind. The assistant hesitated. But Mr. Bain, isn't this too cruel? Your fiancée has been with you since she was 18. Just do as I say, don't ask questions. A cold chill spread through my body, and I couldn't stop trembling. The man I had loved unconditionally had already given his heart to the poor girl I once sponsored. And for her, he had destroyed everything I had. If that's the case, I'd make those who hurt me pay. I hid my identity as a wealthy heiress for the capital city Umbergard and married Robert Bain. The day before our wedding, I unfortunately got into a car accident. When I woke up, I was blind. In the darkness, I overheard Robert talking to his assistant. Mr. Bain, everything has been taken care of. The driver responsible for the accident and the doctors, none of them will say a word. But your fiancée loves painting more than anything. After donating her corneas, she'd never be able to see again. What if she can't accept it when she wakes up? She's strong. She's not like Lex. Lex wouldn't survive without her sight. And Adeline has me. I'll take care of her in this life and the next. I love her, but I can't lose. Robert paused for a moment before speaking with low and hoarse voice. Oh, and have the doctor remove Adeline's uterus while they're at it. If Lex finds out I had a child with her, she'll lose her mind. The assistant hesitated. But Mr. Bain, isn't this too cruel? Your fiancée has been with you since she was 18. Just do as I say, don't ask questions. A cold chill spread through my body, and I couldn't stop trembling. The man I had loved unconditionally had already given his heart to the poor girl I once sponsored. And for her, he had destroyed everything I had. If that's the case, I'd make those who hurt me pay. Footsteps echoed through the hospital room. I forced myself to stay calm, pretending to be unconscious. Mr. Bain, your fiancée just donated her corneas. Her body is already weak. If you remove her uterus now, she might not survive. It's too risky. I strongly suggest we wait a little longer. I didn't hire you to give me advice. This is an order, not a discussion. And if anything happens to Adeline, you know the consequences. The doctor hesitated before replying in a shaky voice. Understood, Mr. Bain. I felt the warmth of Robert's fingers brush against my cheek. His voice was low, hoarse, almost tender. Adeline, it'll all be over soon. Don't worry, I'll always be here to protect you. I love you, Ada. A tremor ran through me. Something wet slid down my cheek, his tear or mine. I wasn't sure. Then I heard him shift, as if standing up. Sensing that I was about to wake, his tone turned cold. Where's the doctor? Get everything ready. The surgery needs to be done before she wakes up. I would have believed every word, but now I knew the so-called nutrient shot was just a sedative to put me under. I clung desperately to his arm, shaking my head frantically. my voice breaking. No, Robert, please, I don't want it. Let's go home, can we, please? Let's just go home, Panic surged through me. My eyes flew open, but all I saw was darkness. Tears fell uncontrollably as I reached out, hands grasping at nothing. Why, why can't I see? Adeline, don't be scared. I'm here. I've always been here. Robert pulled me into his arms, holding me slightly. His warm hand stroked my hair, his deep voice filled with what sounded like tenderness and concern. You were in a car accident. The doctor said your blindness is only temporary. Don't worry, Adeline, I'll take good care of you. He paused for a moment, then continued, his tone soothing. Be good. Your body is still weak. You shouldn't get too worked up. Let the doctor give you a nutrient shot. Okay, if I hadn't woken up early and overhear conversation with the doctor. Before I could finish, the cold sting of a needle pierced my skin. Ada, be good. Just sleep, and everything will pass. I'm here, you'll be fine. Tears slipped silently down my cheeks. My body was numb from the anesthesia, but the pain in my heart. I closed my eyes in despair. In the darkness, I thought I saw Robert at 18, sitting by my bedside, eyes red from crying. He called me an idiot for taking the knife for him. His young but determined voice echoed in my mind. Adeline, I swear, I'll never let anyone hurt you again. Yet, the person who hurt me the most, the one who nearly killed me, was him. When I woke up again, I had lost my eyesight, lost the man I loved, and lost chance to ever have children of my own. The hospital room was quiet except for the sound of my weak breathing. Not long after, I heard muffled voices arguing outside. Adeline was in a car accident. I have to take care of her. She's always been so good to me. If it weren't for her, I'd still be stuck in the slums. I owe her my whole life, and I'll never stop repaying her. Don't try to stop me. It was Lexi Law, a poor student I had sponsored in the past. Robert had never tolerated defiance from anyone, yet there wasn't even a trace of anger in his voice. Lex, listen to me. Your eyesight just recovered, and the doctor said you still need to rest. You shouldn't be moving around too much. Adeline has someone to take care of her. You don't need to worry. My fingers tightened around the blanket. Did Lexi go blind? Why didn't I know about that? Suddenly, a sharp pain shot through the back of my hand as a needle was roughly jabbed into my skin. Stop moving, the nurse snapped, her tone full of irritation. She pressed down harder, as if warning me to stay still. What a joke. Why do they get to take care of Mrs. Bain and Ms. Law, while I'm stuck looking after a blind woman like you? If Ms. Law could just put in a good word for me with Mr. Bain, I wouldn't have to waste my time with patients like you. Crash! The sound of glass shattering cut her off. Who dares? Mr. Bain. Why are you here? Her voice, once filled with resentment, trembled with fear. Then, Robert's furious voice echoed through the hospital room, cold and menacing. Get out! Don't ever let me see you again. A familiar warmth surrounded me. His body was trembling slightly, and his voice was filled with guilt. Adeline, I'm sorry. I was too late. I let you suffer. I'm so sorry. A bitter smile tugged at my lips. Compared to having my corneas and uterus taken from me, this was nothing. But he seemed devastated, holding me so tightly I could hardly breathe. I don't want to stay in the hospital. I want Washington to go home. His warm breath brushed against my neck. As soon as the doctor discharges you, I'll take you home. He didn't know the home I was talking about wasn't his mansion. It was the McLeod's manor in Umbergard. Years ago, when the McLeod's was thrown into chaos, my father hid me away in Stormhaven. Despite that, someone still managed to find out my whereabouts. I was cornered in an alley when Robert appeared and took a knife from me. That was the moment I truly understood what it meant to fall in love at first sight. Later, we got into the same university, fell madly in love, and became inseparable. Everyone envied us. I couldn't let myself just stay idle, seeing her survive on plain steamed buns every day. I admired her talent, so I helped her. Lexi was grateful beyond what she could express. We quickly became inseparable best friends. But I never knew when she and Robert ended up in the same bed or when he fell in love with her. Robert gently tucked a strand of hair behind my ear, his voice softer than Eve. "Adeline, can we still go ahead with the wedding tomorrow as planned? I can't wait to make you my wife, my Mrs. Gu." The wedding I once dreamed of now felt like a nightmare. I shook my head lightly. No, Robert clearly hadn't expected me to refuse. He let go of me, his tone unusually patient. "I know you're scared, but trust me, I'll handle everything. No one will dare say a word about you. Lexi will be your bridesmaid, she'll be there for you. And this time, the officiant will be Spencer, the head of the most powerful family in Ubergard. I promised you, didn't I? I'll do you the grandest wedding." The moment I heard my brother's name, my hands instinctively clenched around Robert's sleeve. The McLeods had no idea I was in Stormhaven. They certainly didn't know that Robert's fiancée was me. Years ago, after refusing an arranged marriage with the most ideal young entrepreneur of Ubergrad's elite, I fled from my family's home and never looked back. A bitter ache rose in my chest. I didn't dare imagine what kind of expression my brother would have if he saw me like this, so helpless, so pathetic. Suddenly, I felt a weight on my arm, followed by a crisp, anxious voice. Years ago, after refusing an arranged marriage with the most ideal young entrepreneur of Ubergrad's elite, I fled from my family's home and never looked back. A bitter ache rose in my chest. I didn't dare imagine what kind of expression my brother would have if he saw me like this, so helpless, so pathetic. Suddenly, I felt a weight on my arm, followed by a crisp, anxious voice. "Adeline, I was so worried about you. From now on, I'll be your eyes. I'll take care of you for the rest of your life." Robert cut her off, his voice carrying a barely noticeable trace of guilt. "Don't talk nonsense. Adeline's blindness is only temporary." Lexi caught on immediately. She rested her head on my shoulder and spoke in that sweet, innocent voice of hers. "Oh, right. That was my mistake. Who knows? Maybe by tomorrow, Adeline's vision will be back. Then she can walk down the aisle in her beautiful wedding dress and become Mrs. Bain. Adeline, I'm so happy for you." That soft, harmless act of hers had fooled me completely. Once the assistant delivered the wedding dress, only Lexi and I were left in the hospital room. "Adeline, I heard you designed this dress yourself. It's gorgeous. But it's a little too big for me." The sharp sound of fabric tearing cut through the silence of the room, harsh and jarring. I knew she had destroyed my wedding dress. "A blind woman like you has no use for something this beautiful. That hospital gown suits you much better." Rip. A searing pain shot through my eye sockets, burning like fire. The pain was so overwhelming that I couldn't even scream. My hands trembled as I reached up, trying to wipe away the liquid from my eyes with my sleeve. Lexi grabbed my wrist in a death grip, her voice laced with pure malice as she whispered in my ear, "Adeline, your blindness wasn't caused by the car accident at all." I never expected that just few casual words from me would make Robert go so far as to take your corneas and give them to me. And guess what? I didn't even need them. I found them disgusting. Even a dog wouldn't want them. If you know what's good for you, you'll walk away on your own. If not... Do you ever thought that another casual remark from me can make Robert take your life next? The acid burned my eyes, but it was nothing compared to the pain in my heart. The sound of leather shoes echoed as someone approached. Lexi suddenly wiped the liquid from my ear harshly, as if erasing evidence. Then, Sneak grabbed my hand and lifted it high. Slap! A sharp sting exploded across my palm. Before I could react, a sudden force shoved me backward. My head slammed into the wall, sending a wave of dizziness crashing over me as a relentless ringing filled my ears. Adeline, you've lost your sight, not your damn mind. Why would you hit Lexi? She's currently recovering and weak. From this source, please create detailed images of each scene so I can make a video. The images have a 16:9 ratio. Create detailed images for me until the end. All these years, this was the first time Robert had been this furious. His sharp, angry voice rang above my head. Apologize to Lex, or the wedding is off tomorrow. He knew how much I had been looking forward to this wedding. My biggest wish all these years was to wear a wedding dress and marry him. Just as he expected, I lowered my head, looking like someone who had done something wrong. The lingering tears in my eyes stung. My voice trembled slightly. I'm sorry. Oh, from the doorway, a man's indifferent voice cut through the air. I'll have someone pick you up at 8 in the morning. What Robert didn't know was that for me, tomorrow's wedding wasn't a dream come true, it was an escape. The day I would finally leave him for good. Her dress brushed against my exposed ankle as she placed a veil over my head. She let out a laugh. Happy wedding day, Adeline. Did you really think putting on a veil would make you the bride? It's just to cover your blind eyes so you won't embarrass yourself. When she didn't see the despair she was expecting on my face, her expression darkened. Robert's was irritated as he shouted. Early the next morning, his assistant arrived to take me to the wedding. Just as Lexi had said, I showed up still wearing my hospital gown. Where's the wedding dress I had prepared for you? Adeline, are you trying to get back at me on purpose? Do you actually plan to marry me looking like this? The assistant helped me toward the dressing room. Just as I was about to towel off the hospital gown, an unfamiliar man's voice, filled with excitement, sounded behind me. A blind girl, huh? But damn, you're pretty. Be good and don't scream, and I'll take real good care of you. Before I could react, rough hands yanked at my clothes. I struggled with all my strength, but no matter how hard I pushed, I couldn't get him off me. I bit down on his arm as hard as I could. You little bitch, you looking to die. Enraged, he flung me to the ground, his heavy breaths hot against my neck. My clothes had just been violently torn apart when a sharp, shocked voice shrieked from the doorway. Adeline, how could you do something like this at Mr. Bain's wedding? Do you have no shame? The man above me paused, then scoffed, panting. She threw herself at me first. Like hell I'd be interested in a blind girl. The moment he spoke, the room buzzed with accusations. I can't believe Mr. Bain's fiancée is actually blind. No wonder she lost her sight. Imagine cheating on Mr. Bain of all people. What a shameless slut. The words slithered toward me like venomous snakes, each one biting deep into my skin. Panicked, I clutched at the remains of my torn clothing and curled into myself, burying my head in my knees. My whole body trembled violently. Suddenly, the room fell eerily silent. The only sound left was heavy thuds of approaching footsteps. Love fades in time. Venomous snakes, each one biting deep into my skin. Panicked, I clutched at the remains of my torn clothing and curled into myself, burying my head in my knees. My whole body trembled violently. Suddenly, the room fell eerily silent. The only sound left was heavy thuds of approaching footsteps. Adeline, why are you betraying me? A hand soon clamped tightly around my neck. Robert's eyes were bloodshot, veins bulging along his arms. I struggled with all my strength, barely managing to choke out a few words. I didn't. The suffocating pressure closed in on me, my vision growing hazy. Just when I thought I would pass out, Robert suddenly let go, only to grab my chin in an iron grip. After all these years together, you should know better than anyone else. Despise betrayal. You must have lost your damn mind to be with a man like that. Since that's the case, forget about the wedding, he turned to the guards. Take her to a psychiatric hospital. The moment I felt hands grab me, panic surged through my chest, sinking me into despair. If I got locked away in that hospital, I would never make it back to the McLeods. That thought sent a jolt of adrenaline through me. I thrashed against their grip, breaking free, and bolted forward with everything I had. Catch her. Robert's furious voice echoed throughout the walls, footsteps pounding closer with every second. My heart slammed against my ribs. Everything was pitch black. I couldn't think, but stopping wasn't an option. Running was my only choice. Then, out of nowhere, I crashed into a warm,